Woof. Howdy, fellow Trailhounds. Settle in. We've reached the end of Act 3 of our 52 episode parable. We have 2 more acts to go to complete the full series. Thank you for joining along. So, let's get into episode 29 of Thomas the Trailhound. What the Summit Keeps. Katahdin, the void, faced directly. We're at base camp before first light. I want to tell you something true about the dark before dawn on a winter mountain. It is not the dark of the woods, not the dark of the cabin with a fire banked low, and the lamp at the window, and the stone making its argument against the walls. This dark has no walls. It goes in every direction, up, out, through, with the complete indifference of something that was dark before the first fire was ever lit, and will be dark long after the last one goes out. When we walked into it, 2 small creatures, 1 lamp. Before I tell you about the mountain, I need to tell you something about myself. I am not, strictly speaking, allowed here. Baxter State Park has rules about dogs on the trail and the summit, and I want to be honest with you about what I am and what I am not. I'm not a dog you could put on a leash and measure and verify. I'm what I have always been across these 29 episodes. Part of this man that watches, that stays, that reads the world below the level of words, and reports faithfully what it finds. I am every dog who has ever walked beside every human who needed walking beside. I am the faithful thing, the witnessing thing, the creature at the left boot. Whether or not I have 4 legs in the measurable world, on this mountain, on this morning, in this story, I am here. And that is enough. We climbed. I will not romanticize the climbing. It was hard. The hardest miles of the entire road. And I say that having walked from Georgia through every kind of hard this trail offers. This was different. The mountain didn't offer difficulty the way storms offer it. Loudly, dramatically, with visible evidence of its own power. The mountain simply asked more with every step. More from the legs, more from the lungs, more from the part of a person that keeps moving when the reasonable part has filled its objections and been overruled. The old man climbed in silence, not the chosen silence of the cabin days, the silence of a man spending everything on the task at hand. No words left in the economy, only steps. The sky began its change somewhere above the tree line, the dark thinning at the eastern ridge Not light yet, not the sun. Just the first suggestion. The darkness has a limit, and the limit is approaching. Gray becoming the color just before gray becomes something else. We're above the trees now, the world below us, invisible in the dark. The world above us, opening. The stars, still present, but fading at the edges. The universe, politely dimming to let the sun have its moment. The wind up here was different. Not the storm wind, not angry, elemental. The wind that doesn't blow against things so much as through them. Kind that finds every layer and reminds you that layers are a courtesy in the mountains, extends and can withdraw. The old man leaned into it, put his head down, kept climbing. The lamp burned ahead of us in his hand. I want you to see this. The summit of the Appalachian Trail. Deep winter, pre-dawn dark. The wind making its ancient argument against anything that dares to be warm. And a man climbing the last miles of a 1,000-mile road, holding a small brass lamp with a flame that should not have survived the wind, but did. Because he cupped it with his body, the way you protect the things that matter with whatever you have. And the lamp burned, small, impossibly present, gold against the gray dark. The void surrounded it completely, the lamp burning anyway. That's the whole story right there. That's every episode from Dennis Cove to this moment here. A man and his lamp in the void, and the lamp burning anyway. The summit arrived the way summits arrive, not as destination, but as sudden elsewhere of more mountain above you. The sudden absence of more mountain above you. You simply run out of up, and what's left is the sky in every direction. The sky and the wind, the first thin line of gold appearing at the world's edge to the east. The sun, preparing its arrival with the unhurried confidence of something that has risen every day since the beginning and sees no reason to be dramatic about it. We stood on top of the world we've been walking towards since Georgia. The old man didn't speak for a long time. He stood in the wind and looked east at the arriving light, and then south. A long look south, down the spine of the entire road, all of it invisible beneath the winter dark and the distance, but presence in the way memory makes things present. Georgia and the Smokies, and Damascus, and the ponies on the balds, and echoes back going south in the gray morning. And the Pollen Lodge, and the Aurora, and the winter green, and the ring around the winter sun, all of it down there, somewhere in the dark and the miles and the road that made him who he was when he arrived at this exact point on the top of this exact mountain on this exact morning. He looked at it a long time. In the pouch, his hand found it, the way his hand always finds it. Before the mind dissects, directs, before the intention forms, what's the memory or the soul? He brought it out, held it in his palm, the way he held it in the cabin, receiving, and beside it, the lamp. He held them both up together in the wind on the summit of Katahdin, with the sun beginning its arrival at the edge of the world. The two objects that contain the whole of him, the life before, the vow after, the mustard seed, the lamp. What he'd carried from, what he'd carried toward, both in his open hands on the highest point of the longest road. He spoke quietly into the wind that took the words immediately, not destroying them, carrying them south and down and out in the wilderness, into whatever is beyond the edge of hearing. I want to tell you what he said. That belongs to him and to whatever he was speaking to. The sky, the south, the woman whose absence started all of this. The man he was at Dennis Cove, who made the vow by the water, was shaking hands. I won't only tell you, he said it. He said the true thing out loud on the summit of the mountain. He walked 1,000 miles to say it on. And the wind carried it wherever true things go when they're finally spoken after being carried silently for long enough. Then he closed his hands, both of them, the pouch in one, the lamp in the other, and he stood in the arriving light with his eyes closed and his face turned east, and let the first thin warmth of the winter sun find him on the summit. Set at his left boot, the wind moved through us both. The sun arrived, and for one moment, just one, just this, the void and the light were the same thing. The darkness not defeated, not fled, just held. Held by a man with a lamp and a mustard seed and 1,000 miles of kept vows behind him. And a dog on his left boot who has been watching faithfully since Georgia. We started down the descent in the early light, the world below becoming visible as the sun made good on his promise, white and vast and silent in every direction. Maine woods, deep in their winter, the trail somewhere below us, leading back toward the cabin, toward warmth, toward whatever comes after the thing you walked 1,000 miles to do. I want to tell you when it happened, so you understand it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a fall. It wasn't the mountain taking something. It was simply the body presenting its honest accounting. 1,000 miles. The blizzard approach, the pre-dawn climb, the summit, the words spoken into the wind. And then on the descent, on a slope below the tree line, when the snow lay deep and soft, he simply stopped. Not a stumble. He sat down in the snow, the way a man sits when sitting is the only honest option remaining. And then slower, lay back. I was there immediately. Left side. Always the left. Put myself against him, chest to chest. Every degree of warmth my small body held, offered without reservation to his. I looked at his face. His eyes were closed. His breathing there, slow and deep and present. Not gone. Spent every last thing he had, given to the mountain and the miles and the woods. Spoken into the wind. Nothing left for the descent. The bodily, finally, completely, honestly, empty. Snow fell, soft, quiet kind. Not the storm, not the blizzard, just the snow that falls when the world has nothing urgent to say. It fills the silence with itself instead. It fell on us both equally. I didn't move. Time passed, the way time passes on mountains, without asking permission, without adjusting for the small dramas of the creatures on their slopes. Snow fell. The old man breathed. I stayed. And then the cold made its case to me directly. Not the cold as backdrop, not the cold as atmosphere. The cold as fact. My own body reading its own temperature with the honest instruments of a creature built for this, but not for this. Not for lying still in deep snow on a winter slope with the temperatures dropping and the light going thin again toward afternoon. I knew. The knowing didn't come from thought. It came from the same place the growl always comes from. Below thought, below decision, below everything, except the oldest animal knowledge. This cannot continue the way it is continuing. I didn't want to move. I want to say that plainly. Every part of me that was Thomas, the witness, the companion, the creature of the left boot, wanted to stay. Staying was what I knew. Staying was what I'd done across 1,000 miles of every kind of hard this road had offered. But the cold was making an argument, and my staying could not answer. And so, the hair on my back rose against my will and my better judgment. The ancient instrument, the thing that knows before the thinking mind catches up, it rose. And from somewhere below intention, below choice, below everything except the pure and absolute fact of what I am, a growl came, low, involuntary, and then a bark into the still winter air of the slope below Katahdin. One bark, then another, not at the mountain, not at the snow, at something I could not see yet, but could smell, faint, on the wind, coming from the direction of the trail below. Something unknown, but not necessarily threatening. Something that made the hair rise. Not necessarily in fear, but in desperate animal hope that something was close enough to hear our bark into the void, into the winter, into whatever was coming on the wind from the south. And I waited. The old man breathed beneath the snow. The mountain stood above us, keeping its own counsel. And I waited for whatever the wind was bringing. Woof. No Diogenes reflection. This is the end of Act 3. Thank you. Consider liking and subscribing. These are philosophical parables built on my travels. The great modern American cynic, Diogenes the dog, wishes you well, fellow citizens of the digital agora. See you soon, fellow trailhounds.